It's the era of the JBL Flip 6. That's not the JBL Flip 6, that's the JBL Flip 5, because you've been asking for the LG Xboom Go PL5 versus the JBL Flip 5. I know the Flip 6 is about out now as I make this video, but you've asked about the Flip 5, and I don't have the Flip 6, therefore I am doing this. LG PL5 versus the JBL Flip 5, and as you can see, quite similar in size, quite similar in weight, 620 grams versus 540 grams. But the PL5 is cheaper. £70 in the UK, $79 in the US, £99 for the Flip 5, $110 in the US for the JBL Flip 5. So, very similar on paper, both rated 20 watts. The PL5 could be the JBL Flip 5, but a bit cheaper. But the form factors are a little bit different. It's a mono speaker, the JBL Flip 5. The Flip 6 will have a woofer and a tweeter, but we've just got a woofer and two passive rads on the JBL Flip 5. While we've got two passive rads and old-fashioned stereo, two 45mm woofers, 45mm by 80 oval racetrack driver on the JBL Flip 5. LG PL5. What's it all about, Alfie? Well, we have on the back the old-fashioned auxiliary input, something you will not find on the JBL Flip 5. We have USB-C charging. We can control our lights. I've now changed the colours and I can indeed turn them off, turn it back on again. There is an app to do that also for LG. We can control our multi-point function and we can set up stereo pairing if we had two of them, but we don't have two of them, so we ain't going to be doing that. On the top, volume up, volume down, play, pause, power button, battery indicator, and of course it does two modes. Gone are the days where you tuned a speaker to sound nice. That was it, end of chat. Now we have mode this, mode that, go outdoors, go indoors, cut the bass, vocals, everything, every way you want to shape it, but never quite what you want. In this case we've got sound boost mode, which is in fact the default mode. And I've just pressed the sound boost on. I know it's on because I've got a white light. And standard mode, which you think would be default mode, is with the light off. So, got it in my hand, the LG PL5. First thing I'm going to find out is, have you guessed it? Yes, I want to see the frequency response. Default mode is sound boost mode. And as you can see, scarily on the bright side. This looks quite unbelievable. This looks like something I would expect from the likes of Tronsmart. 300 hertz and up, we're on a continual rise. Big peaks, 2.5 kilohertz, 14 kilohertz. And look at that bass. No low volume bass adjustment here, actually the opposite. As we go up the volumes, we get more in the deep bass, and we have less deep bass at lower volumes. Standard mode, far more balanced, but still upper bass heavy. And by the time you get 80-100% volume, we've got more deep bass in sound boost mode, which is the opposite of what we're seeing at low volume. It's a crossover in the tuning. The only thing that remains constant is very, very bright sound boost mode, balanced, but still a big 14 kilohertz peak standard mode. Sound boost mode does not look good on paper, but let's not judge it before we've heard it. But I've got to say on paper, that's not looking good, and there's weird things going on, and the way they've tuned sound boost and standard, it changes as you got the volume scale, and no bass adjustment at lower volumes, and then bass adjustment as you go up. Very, very weird. Maybe it will be a JBL Flip 5 killer before we've even got the JBL Flip 6 on the Alan Ross Reviews channel. But it's not looking good. The first thing I'm really going to say for sure, because we see this all the time. You get different modes. A lot of the time, all they're doing is going a bit louder, a bit quieter, and you think something is happening because the louder something is, the more dynamic it sounds to your ears. It sounds a little bit better, a little bit sweeter, and maybe even a bit more bass heavy, because as you got the volume scale, your ears become more sensitive to the bass, and it's easy to trick you into thinking something's happened when all they've done is change a couple of decibels up or a couple of decibels down. So volume match them on the Alan Ross Reviews channel. It's something I know a lot of you still don't get. So I could play them both at 60. I could play both modes at 60% volume. And what do we get? Nothing. We just get the difference in the volume. Got to loudness match them. I do that with LUFS. Sometimes I have to do a little bit of tinkering even after that, but it should be volume matched to your ears. So, volume matched. Let's have a listen at around 60%, but of course, they are different volumes. They're doing the old trickery. They're tuned very different, which means we're at 60% for standard mode because it's quieter. We're at 45% for sound boost mode because it's automatically louder.
Cause it's electric, the way you touch me, and the vibration set me free. It passes through me, the way you touch me, it's the way true love should be. Finally your touch touches my skin. Finally I feel you give in. Finally you touch me again. You touch me, you touch me, you touch me again.
Turn off sound boost mode. 60% and below. I cannot listen to sound boost mode. It's awful. And I know some of you will say, well, I've got PL5 and I love sound boost mode. Oh, it's so dynamic. Okay. Your taste may be different and you just want a different kind of tuning. But in anywhere near the hi-fi world, sound boost mode at lower volumes is awful. And therefore, moving forward with comparisons, when I'm doing these low volume comparisons, I will only use standard mode. Why how are you doing that? Well, I'll tell you, because sound boost mode is awful. So, awful at lower volumes. What happens if we go up to louder volumes? So 85% now on standard mode. That's 75% on sound boost mode. Okay, we can turn sound boost mode back on. That does not mean it's amazing, fantastic, drop every other speaker and buy a PL5, but it does mean you can just about listen to it. Well, you can just about listen to it, but it's still very, very harsh. But the thing is, tuning has changed. And now we've actually got, whereas at low volumes had no deep bass at all in sound boost mode, now you actually got more deep bass in sound boost mode, and standard mode becomes upper bass heavy. Do you see why sometimes I think to myself, how do they do that? It makes no sense. Tune it one way and have it the same all the way up the loudness scale. Why would you tune them different at low volumes and then have a crossover in how you're tuning them as you go up the volume scales? I don't know, but hey ho, it looks quite pretty. It's got lights. You can change the color of the lights, and in the marketing department, that may be all they really thought about. So there's a bit more deep bass, but it's still harsh in sound boost mode. It's still very, very bright, but hey ho, loudness matched. That makes it sound a bit clearer. Standard mode is now a bit dull, But if it's too harsh, and it is too harsh for me, it's 75% sound boost mode, then just because it's not so sharp, standard mode, maybe the one you listen to, it is for me, but it's still a bit dull. So neither of those modes are great, and it's going to be a tie as to which one you personally prefer. Standard mode is certainly now a bit thin in the bass, which again I don't like, so it's a choice of what is the least worst. The highs, that 14 kilohertz and 3 kilohertz peak for the sound boost, and there's still a big 14 kilohertz peak in standard mode. It's just not as big as in sound boost mode, and together with an already bright tuning, that makes it very, very harsh listen. So would you rather have the bass of sound boost mode along with the harsh highs, or the more even but bit dull and bass light tuning of the standard mode? We'll leave that for you to consider. What we need to do now is compare the incredible PL5. It's not incredible, is it? It's just another speaker. It's not, well, it is, sometimes it's awful. Sound boost mode at low volume's awful, but otherwise it's not awful. You can listen to it against the JBL Flip 5. It's cheaper, the PL5. So obviously a lot of people are thinking, yeah, but is it still, you know, almost like a PL5 and I can save a few quid, a few dollars? Well, we're gonna have to find out. I already mentioned I'm only going to use standard mode at lower volumes. So for my low volume test against the JBL Flip 5, I'm only going to use standard mode, as I said. So around 55-60% volume.
'Cause it's electric, the way you touch me, and the vibration set me free. It passes through me, the way you touch me. It's the way true love should be. Finally your touch touches my skin. Finally I feel you give in. Finally you touch me again. You touch me again.
Yeah, low volumes, we don't often say it, but I think for me, it's a clear-cut winner for the JBL Flip 5. Remember, it's mono, that stereo, that alone may be the reason to get the PL5, as also having an auxiliary input and no auxiliary on the Flip 5, but you do have on the PL5, again, maybe a reason for you alone to get the PL5, and it's cheaper, of course, but however, standard mode is better than sound boost mode at these volumes, but even standard mode sounds brittle. It still has that 14 kilohertz peak, and it's much fuller in the bass on the JBL Flip 5. Therefore, for me, clear winner at these volumes, the JBL Flip 5. So we'll have to go up in volume to see if we can find something nice to say about the PL5 when it comes to matching it against the JBL Flip 5. And we're going to do both modes, standard mode and sound boost mode, as you know, they're both listenable or unlistenable, depending on your point of view. As we already saw, against both modes, against the JBL Flip 5, around 80%.
No falling, so well like that, it's so wanting, I'm wanting you. I'm on cloud nine and I'm just floating, I'm floating, just to feel something with you. But I can't do this again. I can't do this again and again and again. I can't do this again. I can't do this again and again and again. I can't do this again.
Standard mode versus sound boost mode. We look at the upper bass region, way more upper bass on the standard mode, but more bass heavy in terms of the deeper bass. Well, mid bass, there's no deep bass at all on the sound boost mode. Standard mode much heavier in the lower mids, sound boost mode pushing upper mids and the highs a bit more. And then the Flip 5, it does have more deep bass extension, but it's not deep bass. We're talking rolling off after 60 hertz, but that's still better than the roll off from 80 hertz on the PL5. But the Flip 5 then massive roll off in terms of the higher harmonics after 13 kilohertz. The sound boost mode, big peaks around the 14 kilohertz mark. Also there on standard mode, but not quite as heavy as sound boost mode.
So I would say no clear-cut winner at these volumes, whereas it was a clear-cut winner for me at lower volumes for the Flip 5. They're all kind of similar, but with their own peculiarities. None of these speakers, I'm talking about 3 speakers, obviously 2 modes, 1 speaker, 2 speakers, quite similar in that none of them are great at these volumes. None of them would be a listen for me. I would never pick up one of these 2 speakers to listen at those volumes. However, there is a bit more. None of them have bass or deep bass, nothing past mid bass. But the Flip 5 does have the most bass extension of the 2 speakers. We've already noted the harshness of the PL5, especially in sound boost mode. But the Flip 5 now sounds a bit dull. The standard mode, yeah, I can kind of listen to. But sound boost mode, well, only if you really, really need to cut through something really foggy, really muggy, some sort of track like that. So I would say no winner here. It's going to be your taste. And neither of these speakers and none of these modes are great at louder volumes. So when we talk about going louder, we're going to do the test. Is something going to pull away as a clear winner? And a reason to buy. 100% maximum volume test.
How heavy is that? Light work with the bass on the track, on my face in the back like I'm taking a slap. I need a drink, but it's straight from the tap. And I'm hating the slack, couple man slide around like the hate in the gaff. Please stop talking that trash, cause the vibes in the front all the way to the back. Is that light work with the bass on the track, on my face in the back like I'm taking a slap. I need a drink, but it's straight from the tap. And I'm hating the slack, couple man slide around like the hate in the gaff. Please stop talking that trash, cause the vibes in the front all the way to the back.
Sound boost mode is the loudest. It's also the harshest. Standard mode on the PL5, about a decibel and a half below sound boost mode. And then nearly 2 dBs down on standard mode is the Flip 5. Flip 5 still has a bit more bass extension. It's not deep bass, but it does extend further than the PL5. It does have some harshness into the highs, but not quite as bad as sound boost mode. But all 3 kind of similar. None of them come out a clear-cut winner. But if it's about loudness, it's sound boost mode on the PL5.
So, yeah, there's a clear winner in terms of loudness. It's sound boost mode. You know, your granny can tell you that goes the loudest. But hey-ho, which one would you... I wouldn't listen to that. That is harsh. That is severe aggro on your ear holes. It's quieter on the Flip 5, and it's quite dull. But I would say maybe the easiest to listen to, because even standard mode, it's very dull, still has brittleness and some harshness. Standard mode, very upper bass heavy, just dull. It's kind of, so I wouldn't listen to any of these past 75% volume. But if I had to pick one to listen to, at least that sounds decent at low volume, albeit it's mono. But this is cheaper. Why else would you go to? Let's compare all the specs. Without the battery, well, 17.8 watt hours is a bigger battery than the 15 watt hours of the PL5. Bluetooth 4.2, but you get Bluetooth 5. But Bluetooth 5, but hey ho, it's only IPX5. That caught me out. I did a water test. I dropped it in water. I did find out later, although it floated, it's not rated to be dropped in water. Don't drop it in water. IPX5, can you believe it? Whereas we do have IPX7 on the JBL Flip 5. Neither of them are good for streaming the likes of YouTube. 116 milliseconds, awful 200 milliseconds. That's not really usable for streaming. And they both do stereo pairing. So I can't really get excited about this video, to be honest, because we've already got the Flip 6. I just haven't heard it yet, haven't got it in my hand. This is a decent travel speaker because it's rugged, it's throwaboutable, which is important, and two of them in stereo sounds pretty decent. The Flip 5 to me was always more about having a pair of them and the form factor than a single mono one, which can sound quite brittle. And the PL5, what can I say? Very weird tuning. Very weird tuning. It looks okay, but we've got exposed passive radiators. It's IPX5, but hey, you do get an auxiliary input. I'm really not going to recommend either of these speakers, to be honest. I can't put my hand in my heart and say, do you know what? If you've got a mate down the street and he's looking for a speaker, I can't say, mention to have a look at that. You can do better. Soundcore Boost comes to mind at about 50 quid. Very satisfying bass on that. So I couldn't apologise and say I'm really, really unexcited to come to the conclusion. And I hope there's enough information. The average watch time on my videos is 5 minutes. If you've gone past 5 minutes and you've got enough information there that you needed, that's good. If you just wanted the answer of the PL5 versus the Flip 5, the answer is, for low volume listening, the Flip 5 is a clear winner. And then when you go louder volumes, neither of them are clear winner. But that harshness, if you've got sensitive ears, you're not going to like the PL5 in my personal IMHO, in my honest opinion. But I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again in another video.
I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Ain't no project wife, got my logic right, cause I'm not your type. I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Sorry, ma, I ain't get it right. I'ma just live my life. I ain't about that. I ain't about that life.